The coffee had gone wrong in my hands by the time Jennifer finished speaking. We sat across from each other at our kitchen table, the same one we'd picked out together 3 years ago, arguing playfully about whether oak or walnut looked better. Now it felt like enemy territory. "I'm pregnant," she said again, as if I hadn't heard the first time. "It's Owen's. I'm moving in with him next week." Owen, her ex-boyfriend from college. The one she'd sworn meant nothing anymore when I'd found them having lunch together 6 months ago. The one whose number kept appearing on her phone at the odd hours, which she explained away as just catching up. I should have felt rage, betrayal. The urge to flip this table and watch our wedding photos shatter against the wall, but sitting there watching her nervously twist her wedding ring, the one she apparently planned to take off very soon, I felt something unexpected. Clarity. "Okay," I said simply. Her eyes widened. "Okay, that's all you have to say?" I took a slow breath, setting down the mark. "Jennifer, I'm not going to scream or beg. You've clearly made your decision. But before you go, I want you to understand exactly what you're walking away from." She shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't the script she'd prepared for. "When we met," I continued, my voice steady, "you told me about Owen. How he'd promise you everything and delivered nothing. How he'd choose his career over you every single time. How you'd cried yourself to sleep, wondering if anyone would ever truly put you first. People change." Let me finish. My tone wasn't harsh, just firm. "I built my entire life around making sure you never felt that way again. I turned down the job in Seattle because you didn't want to leave your family. I spent my weekends at your mother's house fixing her plumbing, even though she'd never once thanked me. I learned to cook Italian food because it reminded you of your grandmother." Jennifer's face had gone pale. "I know you've been good to me." "I am not looking for gratitude," I interrupted. "I'm making sure you understand what you're choosing. Owen contacted you 3 months after our wedding. 3 months. And you answered. You kept answering every time he called, every time he texted. You chose to engage with someone who have spent 5 years proving he didn't value you. He's different now," she whispered, but her voice carried no conviction. "Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but here's what I know. When you wake up at 3 in the morning with morning sickness, I would have held your hair and brought you crackers. When the baby arrives and you're exhausted and overwhelmed, I would have taken night shifts. When Owen inevitably gets that promotion he's been chasing and has to travel for weeks at a time, I would have been there." I stood up, walking to the window. Our small garden was visible below. The tomatoes Jennifer had insisted on planting last spring, now wild and overgrown because neither of us had tended them in months. "But you didn't choose that future," I said. "You chose uncertainty with someone familiar over security with someone faithful. And that's your right, but I need you to leave this house knowing exactly what you've done." "This isn't fair," she said, her voice cracking. "You're trying to manipulate me." I turned back to her. "No, Jennifer, manipulation is what Owen did when he called you crying about being lonely. Manipulation is keeping me in the dark for months while you rebuild a relationship with your ex. I'm giving you honesty. Maybe it's uncomfortable, maybe it's not manipulation." She stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the wall. "I should go back. There's more," I said, and something in my voice made her freeze. "I want you to know that I saw those emails." The blood drained from her face completely. "Now, what emails?" "The one that you and Owen were planning this week. I was visiting my father in the hospital. The ones where you talked about how to break it to me, where he told you wait until after Christmas so you wouldn't ruin the holidays." Her hand flew to her mouth. "James, I found them 2 weeks ago," I continued. "I have had those 2 weeks to process this, to plan my response, to decide who I wanted to be in this moment. I could have confronted you then. I could have kicked you out, changed the locks, made this ugly. But I waited because I wanted to see if you'd tell me truth on your own. I was trying to find the right time. There is no right time to destroy someone's life," I said quietly, "but there are honest ways and dishonest ways to do it. You choose dishonest until you couldn't hide it anymore." Jennifer sank back into her chair, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." "Yes, you did." My voice was gentle now, which seemed to hurt her more than anger would have. "Every choice you made led here. Every time you answered his call, every lunch date you hid from me, every night you turned away when I reached for you in bed, those were all choices." She was sobbing openly now. "I still love you. Maybe you do, but you love the idea of him more. You love the fantasy he's selling you, the one where he's suddenly become the man you've always wanted him to be. And maybe he has, but you'll always wonder, Jennifer. Every time he works late, every time his phone rings and he steps out to answer it, you'll wonder if he's doing to you what you did to me. I moved towards the door, grabbing my jacket. I'm going to stay at my brother's tonight. I'll give you space to pack. The apartment is paid through the end of the year. That's 4 months. Plenty of time for you to figure out your next move. I won't contest the divorce. You can keep whatever furniture you want. Where are you going? She asked, though, through tears. To start over, I said simply, to become someone who attracts a different kind of person, someone who values loyalty as much as I do. James, please, can we just talk about this? I paused at the door, hand on the knob. We've been talking, Jennifer. Jennifer, I've been talking to someone who was planning her exit for months. The difference is now we both know it. What if I changed my mind? Her voice was small, desperate. What if I stayed? I turned back one last time. Would you be staying for me or staying because leaving is harder than you thought? Would you be choosing me or just choosing the easier option in this moment? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That's what I thought, I said. Take care of yourself, Jennifer. I mean that, and take care of the baby. Even though this situation is a mess, that child deserves better than to be born into chaos. I really did love you, she whispered. I know, I replied, but love without respect is just pretty word, and somewhere along the way you stopped respecting me enough to tell me the truth. I walked out into the cool evening air, feeling simultaneously devastated and free. My phone buzzed in my pocket. My brother Michael asking if I was okay. Somehow he'd sensed something was wrong. I texted back, coming to stay with you for a while. Bring beer. His response was immediate, already in the fridge, doors open. As I drove across town, I thought about all the times I'd bend myself into uncomfortable shapes to make Jennifer happy. The hobbies I'd abandoned, the friends I'd seen less more often, the dreams I'd quietly shelved. I told myself it was compromise, but looking back, I could see it was more like surrender. Michael's apartment was in an older building downtown, the kind with character and questionable plumbing. He met me at the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. She's leaving, I said into his shoulder. I know, man, I know. We sat on his balcony overlooking the city, drinking cheap beer and watching the lights flicker on across the skyline. I told him everything, the pregnancy, Owen, emails, the conversation. You handled it like a king, Michael said when I'd finished. Seriously, most guys would have lost it. I almost did, I admitted. But then I realized getting angry would have made her the victim. It would have given her a story to tell herself, a way to justify what she did. He was so cruel when I told him. She could say he made it impossible to have a conversation. So you gave her nothing to work with. I gave her the truth, clear, direct, and impossible to misinterpret. She can't rewrite this as anything other than what it is. Her choice to betray someone who loved her. Michael clicked his bottle against mine. To brutal honesty. To brutal honesty. I echoed. My phone lit up with a text from Jennifer. Can we please talk tomorrow? I think I made a mistake. I showed it to Michael. He whistled low. Damn, that was fast. Reality setting in, I said. She's probably sitting in that apartment, realizing Owen isn't rushing over to comfort her. That maybe the fantasy doesn't match the reality. You're going to respond? I thought about it for a long moment, then set my phone face down on the table. Tomorrow, tonight, I'm just going to breathe. We sat in comfortable silence as the city hummed below us. Somewhere out there, Jennifer was packing up the life we'd built together. Somewhere out there, Owen was probably congratulating himself on winning her back. And somewhere inside me, beneath the hurt, the disappointment, I could feel something new rooting. Self-respect. I'd spent 3 years trying to be enough for someone who was always looking elsewhere. Now finally I could stop. You know what the weirdest part is? I said eventually. What's that? I feel relieved, heartbroken, but relieved. Like I've been holding my breath for months and can finally exhale. Michael nodded knowingly because you had already lost her. This was just making it official. He was right. The woman I'd married had left long before tonight. I'd just been too scared to admit it. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jennifer. Then another. I didn't look at them. Tomorrow, Michael said, understanding without me having to explain. Tomorrow, I agreed. The night stretched out before us, full of possibility and pain in equal measure. But for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the man constantly trying to save a marriage that one person had already abandoned, but someone who knew his worth. Jennifer had made her choice, and in responding the way I did, with calm dignity instead of desperate anger, I'd made mine too. I would survive this. More than that, I would grow from it. The city lights blurred slightly as tears finally came, but they felt cleansing rather than crushing. Michael didn't say anything, just refilled my beer and stayed close. Some endings are really beginnings. I was starting to believe that.